Hi, welcome to Center Court. I almost said Gridiron Gurus. I am Travis Lazarczyk alongside Drew Bonifant for the Central Maine newspapers, the Kennebec Journal and Morning Sentinel. We're going to talk about the upcoming high school basketball tournament here for a little bit, starting with the boys. Drew, let's start with the Class A North, one of the most competitive divisions in the state. The KVAC A North, teams beat each other all season. Coney sneaks away with the number one seed at 14-4.
Yeah, it's really looking competitive. Just when you look at the standings, the fact that there is no team running away with that one seed. I mean, it was up for grabs until the last week of the season, and I don't think that there's a team in here that you look at as that clear favorite. Like, oh man,
right.
who can match up with that team on the court? A lot of teams have their strengths. I mean, it's clear to understand why Coney's the one seed. I mean, with the way they shoot and the way they play defense, but there is no team that just looks like an impossible matchup out there. So it's going to be interesting to see where the upsets come from and how these teams play when they've been playing so close throughout the season.
Yeah, it's going to be some interesting first round matchups. Coney playing a number 8 seed in Madomic Valley with 12 wins. I can't imagine a number 8 seed with 12 wins, but here we are. And then Skowhegan got hot at the end to climb into the 6 seed, I believe. No, pardon me, 7, because Brewer got hot at the end to get in end up as a 6 seed. We'll be playing Mount Blue, a team that they beat last week, to get into the tournament. So
yeah, and Madomic at 8 seed, they've been one of the tougher teams in this field the last couple of years. They were the 1 seed 2 years ago, and they got upset by Skowhegan. And then last year they were the lower seed, who then kind of went on a Cinderella
run until they ran into Hamden in the regional final. Yeah,
it's funny talking to TJ Maines in one of the last games of the season. I talked to him about being the 1 seed, and he's like, "Yeah, and our present for that is playing Madomic." So it's, I don't think that there's. I mean, whether it's, Skowhegan has played tough at this tournament in years past, and Hamden with some of the people who are going to be unavailable for them in this game kind of brings them back to the pack. I thought they were the team that was going to be the
then
favorite.
They lose a guard and Corey Winch, and they lost center Mark Hutchins earlier in the year to a car accident. So that's 2 starters they thought they had who are not going to be able to play for them.
Yeah, and I thought that kind of put this threw us back wide open. Before the season, we were saying Hamden was the team that clearly everybody was chasing. They won the regional last year, came this close to a state title last year, but then with Winch's situation, with Hutchings being in an accident like you talked about, it really just threw it back wide open. And now those teams that maybe were wondering if the Coneys or the Lawrences or something like that could look at it and say, this is right up there for us to go up and grab. All we need to do is play well. We don't have to worry about that one giant looming like maybe was the case earlier.
Another intriguing game we haven't touched on yet in the quarterfinals is that 4-5 game between Lawrence and Erskine. Lawrence is a team that hasn't been here for a couple of years. Strong team with some good guard play with Kobe Neto leading the way there. And Erskine, I saw them early in the year, and they just didn't look good at all. But then they got hot and kind of pulled it together and made a run here.
They do this every year, doesn't it seem like that?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like every year they kind of struggle and they look like they're sort of meandering through the start of the season, and then they just get it rolling. They have a lot of size this year, so they have some good guard play with guys like Braden Sewell. But when you get guys like Gavin Blanchard and Jacob Prawl, those are people who can crash the boards. And for a team like Lawrence, which I've only seen them once. What's their size like?
They're all like 5'11", 6 feet.
So
not a lot of size,
it's
but
a team that
quick.
It's a team that plays tough. It's a team that can get on a roll and knock down shots. It's a team that just gives their opponent everything they've got. But can they match up on the boards and just kind of win that post battle with Erskine? So that's going to be an interesting matchup from there. I wouldn't rule out any of those teams winning that game and moving on. And
the surprise of the tournament might be Mount Blue, a team that the last 6-7 years has been consistently one of the lower teams in the KVAC. I think since 2011 they had gone 9-99 coming into the season. And now they win 11 games under new head coach Travis Magnuson. Guys like James Anderson and Garrett Reynolds are seniors, and they're playing well and leading this team to a resurgence.
Yeah, and they were definitely the story of the first half of the season. They've started to cool off a little bit of late, but they still have some great talent on that team. James Anderson is a guy who can he can score 30 in these games. He can score 35 if he gets on a roll and he gets hot. So it's just a matter of that team. With that team, I wonder if their confidence is a little shaken after some of the losses that they had at the end of the year. But with what Travis Magnuson has done, turn around that team. They have the feel of a team that if they kind of regain that earlier season swagger, could be a tough out.
Definitely. All right, let's look at Class B North quickly, Drew. Herman has to be the favorite, coming off an undefeated state championship year, undefeated again, and the Hawks have only had 2 games that they won by under 10 points this year, and those were 2 9-point wins, one over Mount Desert Island, who's the number 2 seed in the region, and Oceanside, who's the number 4 seed. If there's a dark horse that might be able to overtake the Hawks, I would think it might be that Mount Desert Island team.
Yeah, I mean, it's we were just talking about with A North how you don't have that looming giant in there anymore. Right. You do have it here with that Herman team. I mean, they cruised to the state title last year, and you thought that losing guys like Keegan Marseille over the season from last year this year that would probably drop them down.
They just
not
keep
so much.
On.
Yeah, that's just a good team, a good deep team, and but yeah, is Mount Desert Island that upset team? It's worth watching. I didn't get a chance to see them too much this over the course of this year, but they've been a tough out in this tournament in years past. So Herman could have their hands full, but it sounds like it's gonna take, and it looks like it's gonna take a lot to knock them off.
Yeah, locally, Maine Central Institute boys are having a nice run here. Mm-hmm. They're 14-4, going to have a tough game against an Oceanside team that they split with in the regular season in the quarterfinals. And they're also playing without one of their better players, Owen Williams, who was lost to a leg injury about mid-season. So we'll see if the Huskies can keep it going there.
Yeah, and they got a nice player before this season. Gavin MacArthur from Gardner, played at Gardner last year, and I remember thinking that before I heard that he was transferring this year, thinking, okay, he's going to be the key piece for Gardner going into this year. And so hearing he was going to MCI, which was a pretty solid team last year, seemed to set him up pretty well. So, I mean, he's a sophomore this year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's how does he handle this tournament atmosphere? And if he's on, he could be kind of a missing piece for MCI to maybe knock down a couple of these games.
Yeah, big piece that MCI got back right about the time they were losing Williams. They got the return of Jose Montez Valverde, who's about 6'8" in the middle. Not a huge scorer, but he's a shot blocker. He's a rebounder. If you try to go in on him in the paint, he's going to alter the shot at least, so it's a good defensive weapon to have for the Huskies. All right, let's look at South Sea boys, which could be one of the more hotly contested, and certainly one of the ones that we're looking forward to with 2 local teams in Winthrop and Halldale. Look like the last 2 regional champs could be facing off again, but then there's Waynfleet kind of could throw a monkey wrench in the middle of it all.
Yeah, this is probably the field I'm looking forward to seeing the most because those top 3 teams, Winthrop, Halldale, and Waynfleet, like you said, you can make a case for all 3 of them being the team to beat. Halldale, I don't know if either of these teams have the top 2 that Halldale has with Ashton Abbott and Alec Byron. Abbott is a really good all around player.
Pair of 1,000-point scorers, which is rare.
Yeah, that's right. It was I think it was the first time in Halldale's program history that they had 2 people reach that mark in one season. So it just goes to show the caliber of players they have playing alongside each other going in here. And the different skill sets. Byron is just a guy who can get on a scoring roll and really get hot, and Abbott is just a really good all-around player. He's good on the boards. He's a good passer. He's a good shooter. He's really good, with his body inside, just working around contact and everything and finishing down low. Winthrop doesn't have that with the exception of Cam Wood, who also got 1,000 points this year. They don't seem to have that firepower per se, but they just have a lot of depth and a lot of size. They don't need Cam Wood to go out there and score 25 points in order to have a chance to win. They can have Jared McLaughlin step up. They could have Cam Hasty can knock down 4 or 5 threes, and all of a sudden that's 15 points out of nowhere, and then they could beat anybody with that. And they just play relentless defense. They always do with MacArthur's style. It's Tom MacArthur now, not Gavin.
Yeah.
With his coaching style, they always bring it on defense. But it does feel like Waynfleet is that team that's kind of looming here. They play a tough schedule. They beat Wells, they beat Cape Elizabeth, they beat Yarmouth, all out of B South. So they have size, they have and they have scoring punch too. So, but those are the 3 teams. It's hard to imagine anybody coming from
the rest of the field,
from the pack, and taking on those 3. But we're looking at a semifinal potentially of Halldale versus Waynfleet. That feels like it should be a regional final. That could be a semifinal game. So that's going to be a really, really exciting to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it's always tough for the Mountain Valley Conference teams that play each other, and they know they have a tough league. But then Waynfleet comes from the Western Maine Conference, where they get, like you said, they get the chance to play some more Class B schools and some tough competition.
Yeah, and I remember doing a preview before the season on C-South and talking to Todd MacArthur at Winthrop and saying, who do you think's the favorite? He said Waynfleet. And then just a couple days ago, I saw him at practice, and I asked, so do you still think Waynfleet's the favorite? And he just had a kind of a quiet nod. Just like
right.
Yep, there. We were looking at them at the start, and we're looking at them now. So I think those teams are aware of what Waynfleet can do, but people were saying the same thing about Waynfleet last year. They lose to Booth Bay, so it just comes down to how you play this day. And maybe a guy who's been knocking down shots all season long suddenly goes cold. Now all of a sudden you're vulnerable. So they might be the team to beat out of all this, but it's definitely not a lock.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now finally we'll look at Class D South boys. This is kind of a weird tournament because only 9 teams are in the region. 8 of them make it. So like we were talking about in the office earlier, the quarterfinal games between like 1 and 8 and 2 and 7 could be lopsided, and you just kind of slog through and get through them and try to be healthy. But then once we get to the semifinals, where we should, on paper, have the top 4 teams advancing, these could be some really good games. That said, undefeated Forest Hills looks like the team to beat.
Yeah, they have depth that you don't usually see at the D South level. They have guys like Brandon Gilbo and Parker Desjardins and Hunter Cuddy who can get 15 to 20 points on a night, and it's just tough at that level to be able to match up with that kind of punch, that kind of depth.
Yeah, they just shoot the ball so well. Parker Desjardins is only a sophomore, and he could be nearing 1,000 points. Might already have if he hadn't missed half of last season with a broken foot. Hunter Cuddy, he's another kid who can just step back and shoot a 3, whether someone's in his face or not. Number 2 and 3, Temple Academy out of Waterville and Valley High School out of Bingham. That could be an interesting semifinal matchup.
Yeah, Valley played some good games against some good teams this year. They have, is it Joey Thomas?
Yes.
Player for them. He's a guy to get a double on any given night. Good strong player for them. So again, it just comes down to the depth. Can they go blow for blow with Forest Hills and match up with all the options that Forest Hills is going to have, they can give the ball to and expect to perform with it.
Yeah, and defending Class D state champion Greenville is the number 5 seed. They'll be playing number 4 Rangeley in the quarterfinals, and all we know about that one is the winner is going to be the Lakers, because we're going to have Rangeley Lakers versus Greenville Lakers, and with the most likely, unless they completely fall apart in the quarterfinals, a chance to take on Forest Hills on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, and Greenville, it's I know you're only as good as your rosters, but it's always I always be wary of playing the defending champ, because there are still some people on that team who have gone through the pressures of playing at the stage and have gone through the rigors of playing a tournament like this. So you never know when that kind of veteran savvy can show itself.
Yeah. Is there anything in this whole tournament, regardless of class, that you're looking forward to seeing the most?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Marana Cook performs in that B South field.
Sure.
They had a really good season last year. Then they got to the tournament and they played, as was always the case, they play the most of the teams in B South that are in Southern Maine, so they don't get to see them during the regular season, and they lost right off the bat to Yarmouth. And this year, 16-2, and they're a good team. They are a good deep team. Before this, and they've gotten better as the season's gone on, because they've seen some people emerge as go-to players. At first, they were all about depth, a bunch of guys who could score 12, 14 points. But now with Cash McClure has turned into a top scorer for them. He scored 28 points in the KVAC championship, knocked down 6 threes. But again, it's the question of, okay, well, now how does that season of KVAC competition match up against the teams you're going to be facing, the unknown factor.
Right.
They're up against Yarmouth again, so congratulations for your great regular season. You get to go up against the team that beat you last year.
You wonder how the sight lines, and I don't know if they're going to be playing in the Expo.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so the sight lines in the Expo match up to their shooting, because they've shown that they can just flat out put the ball in the hoop.
They can. I mean, they beat Coney and they outshot Coney. They were better from the field, and they were playing a much more up-tempo, aggressive, that Grinnell system last year.
Sure.
They backed off of it this year, and to their benefit. I mean, it's been less. They've been able to have their better players on the court for longer. They've been able to play. They haven't played as aggressive defense, but they've been really good in their half-court defense. And I think it's turned them from more of a curiosity out there, that team that, if we're on, we can beat anybody kind of thing, to a team that is always tough to play.
Right.
So, and it's a unique field in that B South field, because you have Mountain Valley as the top seed and Maranacook as the 2 seed, 2 teams from out of the conference that most of those teams are playing
Sure.
in. And then behind them you have Cape Elizabeth as the 3 at 11 and 7. So the 2 teams that seem to be kind of separated from the pack
Didn't play anybody else.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting dynamic, and it makes you think that there could be upsets all over the place.
And Maranacook, I mean, this is a team that scored 99 points on a good MCI team.
Yeah.
Around midseason. So
Yeah, when they're shooting,
they're shooting.
Yeah, when they're clicking, but they don't. They're a little like Coney is this year, where they don't live and die with the 3. They can. Last year that was the case, where if they weren't hitting from the field, they were dead. And this year they take it to the basket more. They pass better. They play more. I don't want to say conservative defense, but they just don't kind of leave themselves exposed on defense as much. So it just seems like they have a lot more ways to beat you than they did last year.
Okay. That's going to do it for us here. I'll be back in just a few minutes with Travis Barrett to talk about the girls' tournament field. Enjoy the games wherever you get a chance to go out and see them. Thanks for watching.